What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Alex, aka Paradox, aka Docs for short. How we doing on this Sunday? Hopefully doing well. Hadn't talked to y'all in a little bit. Figured I'd drop a little quick video. But yeah, let's get right into it. Pretty much the point of today's video is I was at my gym. There's a dude who's in my field. He's pretty new. He graduated like last year or something like that. But he was telling me how essentially his job at HP, I guess they eliminated his position about 2 months ago, and he's been applying for jobs. And he was saying, I've got, a year and a half of Java, and I'm just finding it hard to find a job. And I would think with a year and a half of Java, it'd be a lot easier to find a job. And I had to let him know that coding is not seen as a super premium skill anymore. So what do I mean by that? Obviously having coding experience and all that, is good. But it's not like it was. It's not like it was where, saying that you know how to code and you've got some experience, it doesn't just automatically get you in the door for interviews for jobs. Things have kind of changed. So like, just taking it from my own example, when I graduated college in 2009, to be like a web developer or front end person, pretty much just needed HTML4, some light CSS, some basic JavaScript, like with on-click handler type of stuff, some light PHP, and some light SQL. Pretty much all you needed. Fast forward a few years after that, you had HTML5 came out, CSS3, responsive web design, media queries. You were starting to, you had jQuery, you were starting to get like Angular. So like the bar kept being raised of, what kind of the baseline is for a developer. Fast forward a few years after 2012 to, 2018. Now all of a sudden you have to have all those skills I just mentioned before, but now you have to have a JavaScript framework, one of the big three of React, Angular, or, I guess Vue.js or something. You have to have that. So, 2018, if you try to come get a job talking about, hey, I've got 4 years HTML5, CSS3 experience, companies are like, okay, and? No, that's not seen as special anymore. That's not a big deal. That's not a premium skill. They're expecting you know that. That's the baseline. And so that's kind of where we're at now with some stuff where, now it's like you got 8 years React experience or 8 years JavaScript experience and all this other stuff. Unless you've got something under your belt like Go or Rust or maybe like 10 plus years of .NET, companies really they're not, that blown away by it. Like that's seen as the new baseline. That's the minimum skills they're expecting. They're expecting you have that. Everybody's got that now, at least to these companies. So, what we're seeing is every few years, the baseline and the bar just gets raised higher and higher. So you're probably asking yourself, well, if that's the case, what's a skill that's going to be the differentiator for me? And like I said, you've got things like Go and Rust, because they're somewhat newish. I've seen, people who have experience with that, they'll at least get, a quicker callback, whatever. But from my personal experience, what I'm seeing is it's things like Docker, Kubernetes, some of this DevOps type stuff that you really can't just have AI essentially just do for you at this point in time. That sort of DevOps stuff is, gives you the edge. Like, take for instance, last week I had to do some stuff where I needed to deploy some software onto a virtual machine that we had where we host some stuff. I had to create like a Docker image and do all this stuff. I had to do a hot swap onto the VM and just little stuff like that where you're doing a SSH into the terminal. At least for right now, AI can't really take that job and do it as far as I know. It's possible if you use Claude Code, agent mode, it can maybe do some of that. But unless you've got a company where they've got a internal agent that somebody's made for that, you still got to manually do a lot of that stuff. Another thing that I see too is, when it comes to the system design side. So something commonly that I see is, in interviews, companies will ask me, what have you built? What specific features have you built? Why do companies ask that? Companies really now, they want to see, can they hand you a feature or the outlines of a feature and give you technical requirements? And can you take those technical requirements, a Figma design, and essentially build out a feature more or less on your own or with as little hand holding as possible? So that's really what companies are looking for. They want somebody who can read the technical documentation, make some decisions on, okay, how should we design this based off, what the technical specification is, and maybe give you like a kind of an outline or overall view of how they, want it to look at a high level. And you figure out, the best flow for, the user experience and how all that should tie together. You figure out how that should be organized in the code. You have to, make those decisions. So you're kind of making a lot of the technical decisions, and it's not just enough knowing how to code. It's knowing how to actually structure the code and how can you make the code in a way where, it's the code isn't like laggy and you're not doing too many API calls or something that's slowing the application down. For the React folks, maybe make sure you don't have too many use effects causing any crazy issues, things like that. They really want to know, can we hand you features and can you build them out? And then if you have some questions, you communicate with, whoever you need to get, clarity on certain questions. So that kind of thing I'm seeing really companies are really looking for, more than do you know X language and have X amount of years. I mean, they're still looking for that. Don't get it twisted, but that's seen as the bare minimum now. They really want to know, can you take a feature? Can you build it out? Do you have these DevOps skills too? Can you deploy it? Can you, all of that. So I say that just to say that, coding is no longer by itself seen as a super premium skill. You're not really impressing companies when you say I've got 8 years React experience and all that, that's cool, but what have you built? Tell us what you've built. Tell us why you made this decision when you were building it. So, brushing up on things like architecture patterns and things like that, I'm finding that's becoming more and more important in today's job market. So really, that's all I wanted to make the video on today. Nothing crazy, just a quick video just to let you all know that you got to keep on your grind. You got to keep learning, keep upskilling, because this job market, as we all know, is insane. For me, system design has always been kind of a weaker area just because I never really went out my way to study it that much. But, the past couple months, I've been brushing up on it, just trying to learn and understand more about, the overall holistic view of an application and things like that, because that's where things are trending. Companies want to invest less and less time on employees and want you to just get the work done. They want you to get the work done with as little help as possible from, other people on the team, and just ship stuff. So really, that's going to be your edge in this job market, is having these skills that maybe AI itself can't outright replace right now. So with that being said, just want to check in with you guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Hopefully you all out here on the grind, taking stuff seriously, and hopefully not spending all day on Discord making memes. You got to be out here really getting to it, because it's getting kind of wild out here, and I don't think next year or the year after is going to be any better, but don't know. Guess we'll see. But with that being said, I'm gonna sign off for today, and I'll talk to you all later. Have a good one.